morning, you're watching Estuary News. I'm Hugh Riches. In the headlines tonight, an elderly couple found dead in Hessel, Scunthorpe steel goes to China, and Ballet at Hull New Theatre. And later in tonight's programme, we'll hear from the Hull City, Scunthorpe and Grimsby town managers. And before that, Chief Inspector Iain Dixon of the Humberside Police on tackling hare coursing across our region. An elderly couple has been found dead at a property in East Yorkshire. Police were called to an address on Ferriby Road in Hessel yesterday. Inquiries are underway, but officers are not treating their deaths as suspicious. The Labour MP for Lincoln is writing to the Secretary of State for Health, Jeremy Hunt, to ask him to review the closure of the walk-in centre in Lincoln. Karen Lee MP argues there won't be enough GP appointments available to meet a rise in demand when the centre closes its doors next month. She's also concerned about the pressure it'll have on A&E. Her letter comes after the West Lincolnshire Clinical Commissioning Group confirmed yesterday that the centre will close next month. They'll scale back to weekends in February before shutting after that. Cottingham Parish Council is holding a referendum on the Cottingham Neighbourhood Plan. Residents of the village can decide on whether East Riding Council uses this guide for future planning applications in the village. Councillor Kevin Casson, planning chairman of the parish council, explains how the referendum will help shape the village.
The referendum is a neighbourhood plan, and this is for the people to decide what we are going to build in the village. It's a design guide for the applications that have come in from the East Riding. We've helped pick these at the initial stages. We've held workshops for all of these. We held 13 workshops for the land allocations. And we all sat around in groups. Thoroughly enjoyable days. So the land allocation plan and guide was designed by the people of Cottingham for Cottingham. The referendum is on the 15th of February, and the dating is in by Tuesday the 30th. You must register by Tuesday the 30th of January.
And what is the exact question that we have here?
It is, do you want the East Riding of Yorkshire Council to use the neighbourhood plan, design and guide for Cottingham to help decide planning applications for the neighbourhood area? That's the question you'll see on the polling card for the 15th of February.
Police have today said they want to trace 3 men in connection to a road accident in Hull last week. A silver Hyundai Elantra collided with a traffic light on Freetown Way at the junction of Caroline Street around midday on the 19th of January. The men in the car fled the scene in the direction of New George Street. The car was being driven erratically and at speed on a grassy area near Freetown Way just before the crash. Steel made in Scunthorpe will be used in China. British Steel has secured a £57 billion project that'll build the world's biggest cargo port in Shanghai. The firm is supplying crane rails for the Yangshan deepwater facility. It will enable the port of Shanghai to handle huge container ships with depths of up to 15 metres. The steel will be made at the Scunthorpe plant and rolled at the site in Teesside. Hull New Theatre has broken box office records. More than 42,000 people saw the pantomime Peter Pan during December. It was one of the theatre's major productions following its £16 million refurbishment last year. It starred soap actress Charlie Hardwick and singer and actor Darren Day. And the Russian Ballet of Siberia will be treading the boards at the theatre this week. The acclaimed company is presenting 5 ballets, including Swan Lake, The Nutcracker and Cinderella. Hull-born Konstantinos Karavos is returning to his roots to star in the production.
I mean, ballet's always been kind of quite popular in Hull. I mean, since the theatre's been reopened, it's emerged even bigger since Royal Ballet opened it, and our company joining as well. It's really fantastic. Absolutely marvellous. I get to go stay at my own home, relax, see my family, perform in this amazing theatre. I mean, they've really done a cracking job with all the stuff. The backstage is incredible. I mean, it's hardly recognisable from the old version. So, no, it's absolutely lovely. I mean, last night was a completely packed audience. It was brilliant. And I believe that they're completely sold out of tickets nearly. I mean, I think there's only a couple left occasionally, so you've got to go fast to get them. But I think Nutcracker's basically been bought by most of my family and friends. I think it should be carry on, because a lot of people in Hull love theatre, love ballet, love different performances. It's good that we've got companies, touring companies especially, coming here to perform, because, you know, we've got to keep it going. It's not just 1 year, the City of Culture thing. It should be continuous for quite a long time, hopefully.
East Riding Council is urging residents to have their say in the future of Hulsey Leisure Centre. The £6.5 million scheme will have new facilities to encourage indoor and outdoor sport and play. The library, customer service centre and resource centre will be moved to the new facility. More than 450 people visited the centre recently to look at the proposals. Work is expected to start in May and to be completed next year. Farmers in Lincolnshire have been updating their digital skills. The Technology for Information Literacy project, funded by the Prince's Countryside Trust, aims to teach farmers how to use IT skills in their work. The project was launched last year and a refresher course has been taking place in Louth today. The project comes as a response to Lincolnshire farmers having to work longer due to the county's ageing population and the difficulty in passing on the work to younger generations. Claire Brewitt of the Grimsby Institute says the project has been a success.
It's being expected that farmers will be starting to use technology, and unfortunately a lot of them aren't. So because it's being expected of them, that because this was a funded project, it's been brilliant that they've come forward and they're starting to up their skills and put it into practice. Well, actually it's been a refresher course for the farmers project, which was taken last year, and what it's about is them coming back as a refresher to go over the IT skills that they learnt last year and how they've put it into practice on the farms. The feedback's been really good. There's lots of people on the farms that are starting to use the spreadsheet software, starting to sort of implement it. They did Word, so they've been starting to do Word documents, creating letters, etc. Basically just giving them an upskill on using IT, because a lot of them don't use a lot of IT. It's all stored on documents. Paper documents. So it's just about bringing them skills into the practice that they do in the farming industry.
Hare coursing remains a major problem across our region, and I'm joined now by Chief Inspector Iain Dixon of Humberside Police to tell me how the force is tackling the problem. Iain, welcome. Thanks very much for coming in.
Good evening.
What is hare coursing?
Hare coursing is essentially men, as a general rule, using dogs to chase hares for sport. Generally there's a bet on the outcome of that in terms of how quickly a dog can turn a hare and actually catch the hare.
And so what they do is they come into the fields of Yorkshire and Lincolnshire with, what, one dog, several dogs?
Sometimes many dogs. It can be up to 5, 6 people. They might have maybe 3, 4 dogs and they come into our area and look for hares. And
I suppose there's a particular time, we think of mad March hares, there's a particular time of year, is there a particular season when they can do this, when the hares are vulnerable?
Generally it's post-harvest, so the end of the summer into the early autumn, and that will extend through to generally about March, and it depends on, once the crops have reached a certain height, the dogs can't see the hares running across the field, so it's very much dependent on the growth of the crop.
Are these people doing this, and you mentioned that it's almost always men, are they locals?
No, our experience is it's generally people from outside of the area. Some can travel considerable distance just for this purpose. So we will have people travelling down from the northeast, from Teesside, people coming over from Merseyside, and we've had experiences of people travelling up from Kent.
Now, I quite like a jugged hare every now and then. What's the harm that they do? I mean, apart from the fact that it's not very nice for the hare, what's the harm that hare coursing does?
Well, first off, it's illegal.
Yeah, but why is there a law against it? That's the question.
Okay, essentially the law has come about as part of the Hunting Act of 2004, and it's illegal to use dogs to hunt mammals. So that's one element of it. Secondly, these people are invariably trespassing on a farmer's land, and in doing so they generally tend to cause an awful lot of damage. That's both to the crop and to gates, fencing, that type of thing. And then there's also the connection to more sort of traditional crime, if you like, in terms of, as you'd appreciate, a lot of these farms are in isolated locations, and we have had instances of places being burgled, and people looking at properties to identify vulnerabilities to perhaps come back at a later time.
And of course it damages fields, it doesn't do them any good, people driving around on them. And I mentioned, I didn't mean to dismiss the cruelty to the hare, which is horrible, and presumably not very nice treatment for the dogs involved either.
No, there are instances where dogs have been injured, either falling or fighting amongst themselves. So it's cruelty to animals every way up.
I see a hare. I move around the countryside in Yorkshire and Lincolnshire quite a lot. I see a hare maybe once every 2 or 3 years. Is there a rarity problem with hares? Is the population
No,
under
not
threat?
really. I think it's just a matter of where to look and how rural you go, really. Clearly, they're not on the side of a road every time, other than when you see a dead one being run over. Generally, they're out and about amongst the fields.
If people are aware of hare coursing going on, they suspect something's going on, there are people out there in the night, what should they do?
Well, generally, hare coursing would take place in the daytime.
Okay.
But really, please ring it in. Really, I would say, unless there are some sort of aggravating circumstances, the 101 number is the appropriate number to ring.
101.
Yes.
It's not a 999 call because nobody's in danger, is it?
Yeah, as a general rule, yes. 101 would be the right number to use, and please report it. What it does is it builds our intelligence picture, and we run a specific Operation Galileo, to target hare coursers. We need those reports to be able to target an area to place our patrols.
Iain, thank you so much and good luck with Operation Galileo.
Thank you.
Join me after the break. Jack brings us the views of Nigel Adkins, Graham Alexander and Russell Slade in the sports, and I'll be joined by our very own Luke with the latest cultural highlights. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight in the Sport with Jack, we'll hear from Nigel Adkins, Graham Alexander and Russell Slade. And our very own Luke joins me on the sofa with the latest cultural news. Secondary schools across the East Riding have been ranked around a third of the way down the table of schools nationally. Figures announced today by the Department for Education reveal schools in the county are 54th place out of 150 English local authorities. The schools were ranked using the Progress 8 model, the main measure for judging schools following the introduction of new assessment measures. The Progress 8 measure in the East Riding is one of the best in the north of England, but only around the national average. There are plans to improve what's been called a nightmare junction near Beverley. East Riding Council has submitted a bid for £40 million to the government for improvements to the Jocks Lodge junction, where the A164 and the A1079 meet. The intersection has long queues, and an 86-year-old man died there in 2015 following a serious collision. If approved, the money will come from the Department of Transport's Large Local Major Transport Scheme Fund. The outcome of the application will be announced in May. Meanwhile, a planning application has been submitted to North East Lincolnshire Council for a £170 million energy project. North Beck Energy Centre has submitted plans for the development to the south-east of Immingham Port. If given the go-ahead, it'll generate 49.5 megawatts of electricity from refuse-derived fuel. It'll create more than 300 jobs. The plant will be commissioned in 4 years. A Scunthorpe woman has been fined nearly £1,500 for using her garden as a rubbish tip. North Lincolnshire Council's environmental health officers visited Sharon Raspin's property on Mary Street following complaints about the smell of rotting food. There were also around 30 black bags containing household waste. The defendant was found guilty of several breaches of an abatement notice in her absence at Grimsby Magistrates Court earlier this month. She was ordered to pay fines totalling £1,453. She's now moved away from the area. And I'm joined now by Luke for our latest roundup of the cultural news. Luke, welcome.
Good evening to you. Happy Thursday.
Thank you very much. Good to see you again. What's going on culturally across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire?
You are correct. I have cast the net wide because,
Good.
of course, culture doesn't just happen in Hull, the city of
or just in
culture.
2017.
It's happening 365 days a year.
And in this case, it's happening several thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt.
That's right. A fantastic exhibition I spotted today, Hugh, while I was sourcing our little get-together on the sofa,
Right.
involving Tutankhamun. And a final chance to see this exhibition. It has been running since the 10th of November, but I only found out about it today, and it finishes on Sunday at the Collection Museum,
the Courtyard
Lincoln,
Gallery
at the
in
Courtyard
Lincoln.
Gallery, and it's an exhibition exploring photography of Tutankhamun's tomb. Okay.
Now, of course, that was opened in 1922 by Harold Carter.
Who was from the area.
Was he really?
Yes. Yeah.
And sponsored by the Earl of Carnarvon, I think, as well.
Okay.
And, of course, it was cursed.
Yes.
Or was it? Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly.
The photography is from back then, of course, it's going to be black and white, but it is absolutely exquisite because it's fascinating to see how they treated the archaeology back in those days.
Yeah. And all that history as well to be unveiled. So I reckon there's lots of real hidden gems there at the exhibition.
My parents once went to visit the treasures in the Hare Museum, and I hadn't realised quite how enthusiastic my mother was for gold. She would go, the gold, darling, the gold. She was very keen on it.
Indeed, she liked it then.
Well, let's move from Egypt up to the north of England, to the Yorkshire moors.
Yes, Wuthering Heights, the music of Kate Bush. Are you a fan of Kate Bush?
I certainly am, yes. I love Kate Bush.
What is your favourite Kate Bush track?
Oh, I don't know, whichever one I last heard usually, but Wuthering Heights has to be there, doesn't it?
It's a classic. Well, I like my divas, as you know, Hugh.
Yes.
But I'm not a particular fan of Kate Bush's music. I do love her as an artist, and she's absolutely multi-talented and brilliant. My favourite by her would probably be Running Up That Hill, which was released in, I think, 1981.
You know these things far more detail than I do.
One of the two. Anyway, this is a tribute to Kate Bush at the Plowright Theatre, the 11th of May at 7:30, featuring the exceptional vocal expression, according to the website, of Rachel Sonetta, and fully supported by an incredible band of 5 talented multi-instrumentalists by the name of the Rubber Band.
Well, the Rubber Band sounds good. That's a quotation from Jumbo, of course. I've seen a rubber band, but I've never seen an elephant fly. And Rachel Smith, I don't think it's an absolute imitation of Kate Bush. It's an interpretation. She's got a beautiful voice, and it's an interpretation of those songs.
But the picture, actually, Hugh, it does look... There is a resemblance to...
Lucky her if she resembles Kate Bush.
Indeed. And this show, apparently, Hugh, as we can see in the notes there, celebrating 40 years since the release of Kate Bush's The Kick Inside.
That makes us all feel a bit old. Very quickly, there's a ballet coming on as well.
There is.
We talked about the Russian ballet, the Siberian ballet, but we've got Northern Ballet doing The Ugly Duckling at the New Theatre.
That's right.
That's on Monday, that's in Hull on Monday the 14th of May.
A special performance for children.
Yes.
A 40-minute gig.
And that's the story by Hans Christian Andersen, of course. The duckling is rejected by everybody, but it turns out that it's a swan and a happy ending as children acquire.
And always a happy ending here, Hugh. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Luke. Here's Jack with the sports.
We'll start with tennis, and it was heartbreak for local star Kyle Edmund. The 23-year-old lost in straight sets to the Croatian Marin Cilic in the semi-finals of the Australian Open earlier today. Edmund, who was raised in Tickton near Beverley, shocked the tennis world by reaching the last 4 stage in Melbourne. The British number 2 had tried to become only the 4th British man to reach a Grand Slam final since the sport turned professional in 1968. However, he required treatment on a hip injury during the match, which appeared to hamper him in the later stages of the contest. It wasn't all bad news for Edmund, though. Thanks to his performances, his world ranking is set to rise from 49th to 25th next week. On to football now, and Hull City have a break from the league this weekend as they host Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup 4th round. The Tigers are struggling in their first season back in the Championship after their relegation from the Premier League last year. They're only outside the relegation zone on goal difference and face the real danger of dropping down to League One. Despite their predicament, City's head coach Nigel Adkins is optimistic about turning the situation round.
We have to keep building on what we're doing. And over the course of time, if you hold your nerve and you keep doing the right things at the right time, eventually then 1-0 as against will become a 1-0 for. Right? It's fair to say you've got to keep that foundation right. We don't need to be scoring 2 or 3 goals every game because we're shipping goals in at our end. You've got to have that foundation. I'd like to think we've provided a foundation. Now, along the way, there might be an odd game that just goes against us, but that just helps you refocus and regroup. So come on, keep doing what you're doing.
Meanwhile, a key member of the Scunthorpe United first-team squad looks set to miss out this weekend through injury. Veteran midfielder Neil Bishop was stretchered off with a knee injury midway through the second half of Tuesday night's 1-1 draw with Doncaster Rovers. Iain manager Graham Alexander said the 36-year-old isn't in contention for Saturday's League Two clash at Southend United.
It's not as bad as we first feared, you know, when you see a player stretched off, any player, but certainly someone as tough as Bish, you know, it's a worry. I was concerned when he was down because there wasn't much rolling about, and when a player stays exactly still, then generally they're hurt. And he was in a bit of pain, to be fair. I think he is still in a bit of pain, but there's no major swelling on his knee, and we're quite hopeful that he'll be back after the weekend. So that's a bonus, but it'll probably give someone else the opportunity to come in Saturday and stake their claim.
In League 2, Grimsby Town are preparing to host leaders Luton Town at Blundell Park on Saturday. The visiting Hatters have been the pace setters so far this season, sitting 6 points clear of second place Notts County with a game in hand. Meanwhile, the Mariners haven't won in any of their last 8 league games as they languish in 16th position in the table. However, manager Russell Slade is taking heart from the 1-1 draw at Colchester United last time out.
It's not so much about the systems, it's about, you know, the attitude and how we apply ourselves to go and get the points. We know where we've struggled a little bit, it's getting those goals when we've had our pressure. And certainly, you know, I mean, Colchester had 10 minutes and they managed to get themselves a goal. And that's been a bit unfortunate for us. But look, we're not feeling sorry for ourselves. We went into that game against a side that were clearly looking for the 3 points and pushing on in Colchester, and we managed to, you know, put in a good performance, strong performance, and you know, we're unlucky not to win the football match, and that will give us encouragement going into this game.
And that's all for today's sport. Back to Hugh in the studio.
Thanks very much, Jack. That's all for tonight. I'm afraid don't forget that Tutankhamun exhibition at the Courtyard Gallery, the collection in Lincoln, running until the 28th, for a few more days, 28th of January. If you want to get in touch with us, Facebook or Twitter, email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 01472 31553. Write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby, North East Lincolnshire, DN34 5BQ. Till tomorrow, good evening.